Assalamu alaikum. My name is Tark Aouadi. I am the Executive Director of CAIR Connecticut. CAIR is an acronym for the Council on American Islamic Relations. Our goal is to promote understanding of the religion of Islam and protect the rights of all citizens to practice their faith free from discrimination, bigotry, and hate. CAIR Connecticut is an independently run chapter of a national organization. We are completely funded by the members and constituents here in the state of Connecticut. We have very little affiliation other than the name and issues of CAIR National.
Why did you join CAIR?
I joined CAIR about 2.5, almost 3 years ago. Prior to joining CAIR, I was a lawyer in private practice in the state of Florida. One day I got a call from my daughter's school, and my daughter called me up crying that she had gotten hit. And I was wondering why she got hit. And she told me that one of her friends hit her because they were talking about religion, and it came out that she was Muslim, and there was some kind of discrepancy and disturbance, and she just got hit. I went there, I picked her up, and I was really disturbed. I stopped work and wondering what to do. I called the Council on American Islamic Relations Connecticut after several other organizations, and a lady by the name of Tanya Clevenger, the civil rights director in Florida, got on the phone and talked me through what to do about the situation. Now, I've known CAIR and I have known Tanya since the beginning of the operation in 2011, 2012-ish. And prior to that, the other directors through contact through the Muslim community and things like that. But I never really needed to use them for anything personal. One time I gave a call because my cousin was going through something. But that didn't really matter to me because that wasn't in my house. This was my daughter. She was like almost 8, 9 years old, not even. And she's a sweet girl. And she's right behind the camera. You might have to meet her one day. She has no problems declaring that, there's only one God and Muhammad's his messenger, and openly telling people she's Muslim. That hadn't been a problem until that day, and I really didn't need to use CAIR until that time. But I was really happy that they were there. And Tanya helped me set a meeting with the school, helped me talk about the situation, and eventually solve the problem between my daughter and one of her friends. And that problem wasn't anything more than a misunderstanding of who we are as Muslims in America, who we are as American Muslims in the United States of America. There was a lot of miscommunication and a lot of hate and bigotry that was promulgated because of elections and the couching of us as the boogeyman. And that somehow transferred over into the school and hurt my daughter.
What is the most memorable case you've ever seen while working with CAIR?
Well, there's been a number of different cases where people have been discriminated against in the workplace, and those are very interesting issues because you really shouldn't have to deal with discrimination when you're going to work, but you do. There have been some about problems at the borders, trying to come into the country, being put on hold for 10, 12, 15 hours. But the most amazing story that I know of is one of my clients from when I was working as an attorney in Florida came to us because he rented a house. And he rented a house basically during the month of Ramadan. And during Ramadan, he would come home, garn some garments like this, galabaya, jilbab, I don't even know what you can call it, kamishwal, dashiki, so many different names for this customary dress that Muslims and other people wear outside the United States. but he uses it to pray. And there's a reason for that, because it covers most things, and you want to be covered when you're praying. Anyways, he got a knock on the door. And he just got done praying. He was in his dashiki, his jilbab, his kamishwal, his prayer dress. And he opened the door. It was a member of the community association who began to take into him. He's an African-American guy dressed in foreign. Where are you from? You shouldn't be here. All kinds of different things. And of course, the HOA guy vehemently denies it. But what happened after that was a system to where he was basically ousted out of his community, the place where he spent good money, lots and lots of good money in rent. He had a 2-year lease, and he had his kids enrolled in school, his mom living behind him, who was elderly and needed care for him, and his wife going to school and doing things of that nature. He called up, and we basically began talking to him. And it was very telling that in 2017, about 30 years after All Due Speed hit Florida, which integrated schools and it was supposed to stop racism and hatred, that racism and hatred was alive and well and actually used to run this family out of their house. Now, the issues involved I can't go into, and whether or not it happened or not, it did happen. I sat on the phone for hours listening to the family, the wife, the kids. It was not a made-up story by any means. But the head of the HOA, the guy who began the witch hunt, he basically played it off. Oh, this isn't this. That's not the reason. I didn't come in and I didn't do all this stuff, even though there's an email sent to the property manager almost very, very soon after the visit outlining the whole story. An email that was not prompted by us. We didn't even know about the situation until far after that. But it was good that he took the initiative to document the issue in real time, because a lot of times people just tend to forget, or because of that lack of foresight, they don't document properly, and people can not make up, but maybe tell their version of the story, which isn't necessarily the actual factual events that happened. But anyways, what was really telling about this story is it happened 2 years ago to an African American, not for only being African American, because there were African Americans in the community, but it really happened because he came to the door after performing Maghreb, and he was dressed in something like this. He was identifying himself as Muslim. And I found that very just interesting that in this day and age, these kinds of things are still happening. Well, that was our 15 minutes in this first address. I hope that you know a little bit more about CAIR, and that we can continue these podcasts and address the issues of concern to all constituents and citizens and inhabitants of the state of Connecticut. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.